The world watches with bated breath as the tension in the air is almost palpable. Images of unimaginable brutality flash across our screens, leaving us in a state of shock and disbelief. From the devastated streets of Gaza to the anxious cities of Israel, a conflict rages, threatening to engulf the entire region in flames. The cries of the innocent echo through the chaos as the world watches helplessly. But this is just one front in a much larger battle, a struggle for power and control playing out on the global stage. Nations are pitted against each other, alliances are tested, and the balance of power teeters on the edge. The old world order is crumbling, and from its ashes rises a new era of uncertainty and fear. Economic instability, social unrest, and political upheaval are the new norms. The news is a cacophony of conflicting narratives, each vying for our attention and belief. Governments and media outlets spin their own versions of the truth, each more manipulative than the last. The line between fact and fiction blurs, leaving us questioning what to believe. It's easy to feel overwhelmed, to tune it all out and retreat into apathy. The constant barrage of information can be paralyzing, but that's precisely what they want. Those in power thrive on our disengagement, using it to further their own agendas. Ignorance is their greatest weapon. By keeping us in the dark, they maintain control. We must resist the urge to disengage. We must stay informed, question everything and seek the truth. We must arm ourselves with knowledge and understanding. Education and awareness are our best defenses against manipulation. The stakes have never been higher. Our future depends on our ability to navigate these turbulent times with wisdom and courage. This is not just about Gaza or Israel. It's about the interconnectedness of our world and the ripple effects of conflict. It's about the future of humanity. Together we must strive for peace, understanding, and a better world for all.
The recent conflict between Israel and Hamas has escalated to a terrifying degree, with both sides suffering immense losses and devastation. What began with a surprise attack on Israeli civilians has spiraled into a full-blown war, trapping countless innocent lives in the crossfire. The initial shock has given way to a relentless cycle of violence. Gaza, one of the most densely populated places on Earth, has become a living hell. The streets are filled with debris, and the air is thick with fear and uncertainty. Hospitals are overflowing with the wounded, and essential supplies are running dangerously low. Medical staff are working around the clock, but the sheer number of casualties is overwhelming. Israel, facing relentless rocket fire, has responded with overwhelming military force. The Iron Dome intercepts many rockets, but the threat remains ever present. A ground invasion looms, threatening to unleash even greater devastation. The buildup of military forces on both sides signals a potential escalation that could have catastrophic consequences. International calls for a ceasefire have gone unheeded, each side seemingly determined to fight to the bitter end. Diplomatic efforts have so far failed to bring about any meaningful resolution. The human cost of this conflict is staggering, and the potential for further escalation is terrifyingly real. Families are torn apart, and entire neighborhoods lie in ruins. This is not a war that can be won, only endured. The suffering of civilians on both sides is a stark reminder of the urgent need for peace and reconciliation.
The conflict in the Middle East is sending shockwaves through the global economy. The region, already a hotspot for geopolitical tensions, is now a focal point of economic instability. The ramifications of this conflict are being felt far beyond its borders. Oil prices have skyrocketed, threatening to push already fragile economies over the edge. The surge in oil prices is not just a number on a graph. It translates to higher costs for transportation, manufacturing, and even heating homes. This spike is a direct hit to the wallets of everyday people. Supply chains, already strained by the ongoing pandemic and geopolitical tensions, are on the verge of collapse. The congestion at shipping ports is causing delays in the delivery of goods, leading to empty supermarket shelves and frustrated consumers. Factory workers, still grappling with the effects of the pandemic, are facing new challenges as raw materials become scarce. Stock markets are plummeting as investors panic, fearing a full-blown global recession. The volatility in the markets is a reflection of the uncertainty that permeates the global economy. Red numbers on financial screens are becoming a common sight, signaling distress and a lack of confidence among investors. The economic fallout from this conflict is likely to be felt far and wide, impacting everything from the price of groceries to the availability of essential goods. As grocery prices soar, families are finding it harder to make ends meet. The availability of essential goods is becoming a growing concern, with some items disappearing from shelves altogether. Governments and central banks are scrambling to contain the damage, but their tools are limited and their motives are suspect. Economic briefings are filled with promises of stability, but the reality on the ground tells a different story. The effectiveness of these measures is questionable, and the public's trust in their leaders is waning. The economic elites who profit from war are undoubtedly maneuvering behind the scenes, using this crisis to further enrich themselves at the expense of the working class. Luxury cars and private jets are stark contrasts to the struggles of ordinary people. Protests against economic inequality are becoming more frequent as the gap between the rich and the poor widens. We are sleepwalking into an economic catastrophe, and the people in power seem content to let it happen. Headlines scream of an impending crisis, yet meaningful action is lacking. The burden of this looming recession will fall hardest on those least equipped to handle it, leaving many to wonder what the future holds.
While the world's attention is fixated on the Middle East, other critical events are unfolding with alarming speed. From the streets of Europe to the halls of power in Washington, the old order is crumbling. Protests and unrest are spreading like wildfire, fueled by economic inequality, political corruption, and a growing sense of disillusionment with the status quo. Climate change continues to wreak havoc on a global scale, with extreme weather events becoming increasingly frequent and severe. Yet, our leaders seem paralyzed by inaction, more concerned with protecting their own power than addressing this existential threat. Meanwhile, the very foundations of our democracy are under attack. Expert opinions deciphering the chaos. Experts from various fields offer their perspectives on the unfolding global crises.
Historians draw parallels to past eras of upheaval, warning of the dangers of unchecked nationalism and militarism.
Economists warn of the possibility of a global depression, urging governments to take immediate action to avert disaster.
Geopolitical analysts point to the shifting balance of power, predicting a more unstable and multipolar world order.
However, amidst the doom and gloom, some voices offer glimmers of hope.
Grassroots activists and community leaders around the world are organizing resistance, demanding change, and building alternative systems based on cooperation and sustainability.
Their voices are often drowned out by the noise of the mainstream media, but they represent a powerful force for positive change.
Connecting the dots, a world order in flux. The seemingly disparate events of recent months are not isolated incidents. They are interconnected symptoms of a system in deep crisis. The old world order, built on exploitation, competition, and endless growth, is no longer sustainable. We are witnessing the birth pangs of a new era, one fraught with danger but also pregnant with possibility. The question is, what role will we play in shaping this new world? Will we succumb to fear and division, allowing ourselves to be manipulated by those in power? Or will we seize this moment of crisis as an opportunity to build a more just, equitable, and sustainable future for all?
Navigating the storm, staying informed and prepared. In these turbulent times, staying informed is more important than ever. But it's not enough to simply consume information passively. We must become critical thinkers, questioning everything we hear and see. The mainstream media, beholden to corporate interests, cannot be trusted to provide objective reporting. Seek out alternative sources of information, such as independent journalists, academics, and activist groups. Be wary of propaganda and disinformation, which are rampant in the digital age. Cross-reference information from multiple sources to get a more complete picture.
The power of awareness, your weapon against deception. Knowledge is power. By staying informed and thinking critically, we can arm ourselves against the forces of manipulation and control. We can see through the lies and propaganda that are used to justify war, inequality, and environmental destruction. We can hold our leaders accountable and demand a better world. Don't underestimate the power of your own voice. Talk to your friends and family about these issues. Share information on social media. Get involved in local activism. Every action, no matter how small, contributes to a larger movement for change. A call to action: demand the truth. We are at a crossroads in human history. The choices we make today will determine the course of our future. We cannot afford to be passive observers. We must become active participants in shaping our own destiny. Demand transparency from your elected officials. Support organizations that are working to create a more just and sustainable world. Educate yourself and others about the critical issues of our time. Remember, apathy is the enemy of progress. Hope lies in action. The future is now. We decide what happens next. The world is changing rapidly and the future remains uncertain. But one thing is clear: we are not powerless. We have the power to shape our own destiny. The future is not something that happens to us. It is something we create. Let us choose wisely. Let us choose peace. Let us choose justice. Let us choose sustainability. Let us create a world where all people can thrive. The time for action is now. The future is ours to make.